Hi, welcome to our webinar, Retiring from Intel, The Truth About Your Benefits. I'm Isaac Presley. I'm the president here at Cordon Wealth Partners. Now here at Cordon, we've been working with Intel employees for over 10 years. And in that period, we've learned how important maximizing these benefits can be. But we've also realized that these can be pretty complex and time-consuming decisions for people to sort through. We hear similar questions time and time again, which are, how do I maximize my benefit with my pension, and how does that work? What benefits am I actually eligible for as a retiree? What do I do with my assets when I leave, and how do I go about getting a paycheck when I'm no longer an employee of Intel? And also very important, how do I navigate healthcare? How do I make sure I have healthcare in place when I leave? We're going to cover all those topics here on the webinar. And I would just encourage you to make sure to take action. This is important. You only get one chance to leave Intel and maximize the value of these benefits. So take action. To that end, we've created a couple resources that will be available at the end. So make sure to stay tuned for that. We'll have an opportunity for you to get in touch with us if you'd like some help, some guidance navigating these decisions. And then we'll also have a couple of downloadable tools, resources to help you make progress as well that'll be available at the end. So we're going to get into all that, answer some questions, common questions that we hear. And before that, I would like to take the opportunity just to tell you a little bit about Cordon, so you know a little bit about us, and then we'll get into the heart of the presentation. Now, before we get into the benefits that you have available to you as an employee of Intel, one question you might have is, who's Cordon and why are they doing a webinar about the Intel benefits? Well, Cordon was founded in 2010. We work with about 90 different client households and manage about $180 million in assets for them. A large percentage of those client households are either current or former Intel employees. So we've developed a lot of expertise in that space and work with a lot of clients, sorting through some of the issues and challenges they face as an Intel employee. Now, again, I'm Isaac Presley. I'm the president and director of investments here at Cordon. And if you're familiar with us, our blog, we've done a lot of writing around investing topics, planning topics, and also Intel-specific topics such as the pension and things like that. And been happy to see some of our writing featured in some of the major publications that you see here. So that's just a little bit about us, but we're going to spend the rest of this webinar here talking about some of the issues that you're dealing with as an Intel employee. So again, we're going to talk about the Intel retirement eligibility, who's eligible to officially retire from Intel or not, the effect that this eligibility has on your benefits. We're going to talk about the Intel pension plan and what to do with your Intel retirement accounts if you leave. So we're going to start off first talking about retirement eligibility. You might know there's 3 different ways for you to qualify as a retiree from Intel. Not everybody that leaves Intel is an official retiree. The 3 rules are the age of 65, the rule of 55 and 15, and the rule of 75. Let me go through each of these in a little bit of detail. So age 65, pretty straightforward. You need to be at least 65 years old with no minimum years of service in order to qualify. 55 and 15 says that you must be at least 55 years old and complete 15 years of eligible service. And then the rule of 75, the combined total of your age plus the length of service, and that's calculated in whole years, has to be greater than or equal to 75. Pretty straightforward, but let's look at a couple of examples. It gets a little bit tricky when there's a situation, a break of employment, but the first example we'll look at is continuous employment. So in this example, age 65, the start date was January 1st of 1998, and the retirement date is December of 2019. So in this case, your total years of service was just over 21 years. And so what criteria does this person meet in terms of retirement eligibility? And it turns out that they meet all 3 rules. So the 65, 55 and 15, yes, age 65 plus 21 well exceeds 55 and 15, and it also exceeds the rule of 75. So in this example, meets all 3 criteria. Now, the second example here is a break in service example. So this one, our example here is age 55, started in 1995, and had a break in service from 2005 to 2009. And then officially retired at the end of 2019. So total years of service here is 20, so 10 years initially, and then another 10 years in the current term. So in example 2, which criteria do they meet? Age 65, no. Again, this person's only 55. The rule of 55 and 15, yes. So they're 55 plus 20 years of service, so they meet that one. And the rule of 75 is, again, a yes. They total to 75, being 55 years old with the 20 years of service between the two periods that they worked at Intel. Now, it's important to note that you only need to meet one of these three in order to be an official retiree from Intel and be eligible for some of the benefits that provides. When it comes to the Intel stock, RSUs, options, things like that, the different rules do matter, so we'll look at an example there. But first, we'll just start with the general retirement benefits that officially retiring from Intel make you eligible for, and look at how it impacts your benefits. We'll look at medical benefits, a bonus, and then in life insurance as well. So on the medical front, retirees can continue medical coverage for themselves, their spouses, their eligible dependents through the Intel Retiree Medical Plan. Now, in our experience, the plan offers premium coverage and therefore comes at a premium cost. And this was a bigger benefit in the past when healthcare plans had pre-existing conditions. But as of now, pre-existing conditions are not a barrier to private insurance. But for many people, it's nice to have the option, and it's going to be right for some retirees. So in addition to the Intel Retiree Medical Plan, Intel does offer the Sheltered Employee Retirement Medical Account, known as SERMA, for eligible employees that are hired before January 1st of 2014 and who qualify to actually retire from Intel. So the things to know about this account is it can be used towards eligible health expenses, including individual health, dental, or vision plans, other employer retirement group plans, can be used to cover COBRA, Medicare, Medigap, and even long-term care. The way SERMA works is Intel will contribute $1,500 for each year of completed eligible service. And that's generally defined as the same years of service. Now, however, unlike the Rule of 75 calculation, if the break in service is longer than 2 years, the initial period of service doesn't count towards your SERMA benefit. So we would just encourage you, like some of these benefits are a little bit complex, check with your HR representative to make sure if you have a question in your own specific circumstance. That's how it's calculated. Our recommendation for retirees would be to use their SERMA balances fully as medical expenses accrue. It earns a low rate of interest, so there's no benefit to extending it, rolling it out. And it's actually subject to be reclaimed by Intel. So from the benefits document, Intel reserves the right to return the credit from your SERMA to the program when one of the following occurs. You, your spouse, or your eligible children have died, or your surviving spouse or eligible children haven't used that account after 20 consecutive years. So point is, there's no point in deferring it. Use it up front. When it comes to the bonus, anyone actually leaving Intel, whether they're an official retiree or not, is eligible for a prorated bonus based on the percent of the year or quarter that they worked in that year of retirement. And if you're eligible for the retirement contribution plan, you're eligible for the percentage payout to that as well. And annual performance bonus and quarterly performance bonus are paid out on a prorated basis. And finally, for anyone taking advantage of supplemental or dependent life insurance, you may be eligible to continue that coverage and purchase it at competitive group rates. So next, we're going to look at stock compensation. So we're going to look at 3 different scenarios, and we're going to look at 3 different categories that have some different rules. So we're going to look at vested stock options, unvested stock options, and then unvested RSUs as well. We're going to look at the age of 60 and above, the rule of 75, and then everybody else. So on the vested side, if you meet the age 60 and above or the rule of 75, your options are going to expire 1 year from your retirement date. For anybody else, if you don't meet either of those 2 criteria, you have 90 days from your retirement date for those options to expire. That's on the vested side. On the unvested side, if you meet the age 60 or rule of 75, they're going to get some preferential treatment. So for anybody 60 and above, you'll have 1 year of accelerated vesting for every 5 years of service at Intel. And then if you're rule 75, you just simply get 1 year of accelerated vesting. Anybody else, no accelerated vesting. And then on the RSU front, similar rules here. So 1 year of accelerated investing for every 5 if you're 60 and older. If you meet rule of 75 but you're not 60, it's just 1 year of accelerated investing. And again, for everybody else, no preferential treatment. So important to take advantage of those rules and really understand what's going to happen. If you're somebody that's thinking about leaving, understand what's going to happen to your stock compensation when you do make that decision. Next up, a big topic, a big question that we get is on the pension. So a couple things there. One, how does it actually work? And then two, if I do have a benefit, how do I make a decision around that benefit? So we're going to look at both of those things. Now, just at a very high level, we'll get into how it works. There's a couple blogs out on our website. If you want some more detail, you can look at those. But we'll look at just very high level how the pension works. So first to know, anybody hired before January 1st, 2011 are eligible for this Intel minimum pension plan. A lot of people don't know they're eligible for it, don't understand how it works, don't know the benefit that they're due. So I would just say if you're hired before January 1st, 2011, look into this. It's a real benefit that we've seen for clients. Big picture, it's a minimum pension plan. So the way it works is you have a guaranteed minimum pension benefit that's based on your final average pay, your years of service, and a pay factor determined by Intel. That benefit's calculated, and then the monthly annuity benefit from your retirement contribution is subtracted from that to get your minimum pension benefit. Both of those things are calculated in a monthly lump sum. This is helpful to look at an example. So it's a minimum benefit. Keep that in mind. So in this example, based on those factors, final average pay, years of service, pay factor, somebody's eligible for a $3,200 benefit based on the balance in the retirement contribution account. That gets turned into a monthly benefit of $2,000 in an example. What's left is the $1,200. That would be your monthly benefit from your minimum pension, the difference between the two. If that second number, if your retirement contribution account had grown to an amount that would generate $4,000, say, of monthly income, the difference would be a negative number. Your minimum pension benefit would be zero. So you wouldn't get any benefit at that point. Now, it's important to note, if you have a pension benefit, you still get the balance in your retirement contribution account. It's not one or the other. Now, again, a lot of people don't know about this. I would encourage you to look it up on the Fidelity Net Benefits site. You can actually go to the pension tool. You can look at your benefit. You can run some different scenarios if you're retired at different dates and see what this amount is. So encourage you to do that. That's a little bit of homework here. Now, for those that do qualify for a benefit, you will have a decision to make. And that's whether or not to take a monthly benefit or a lump sum benefit from your pension. Now, this is a tool that we created. We'll have a link out to it. You can plug in your own numbers. But the idea here is, are you better off to take that lump sum, or are you better off to take the monthly benefit? In the way this is set up is the cells that are in green, you're better off taking the lump sum. The cells that are in red, you're better off taking the monthly pension income. And really, there's a couple factors that matter here. So it's what return will you receive on the lump sum, or what return do you want to assume on the lump sum? How long do you live? And then your personal risk preference. Who do you want to bear the risk of this decision? If you take the monthly income, you're kind of offloading some of that risk to Intel. If you want to take the lump sum, you're taking on that risk, the investment risk on your own, but you get some potential for the upside. So what you'll notice here, if you look closely, is if you plan on living a long time and you think you might get some low investment returns, you're going to be better off taking that monthly income over here. Now, if you're somebody that maybe doesn't think they're going to live that long, or average life expectancy, or assuming some higher rate of returns, the lump sum is actually better off in these scenarios. So that's a high level how the pension works. Key takeaways are a couple decisions you need to make. One, go out there, look up what your benefit would be, factor that into your plans. Two, if you are eligible, at some point you're going to need to make a decision around monthly income or lump sum. And if we can be helpful with that, make sure to get in touch, which we'll have a way to do that at the end. So next, moving on from the pension, next question we get is, what do I do with my Intel assets when I leave? And top of mind for a lot of people is, how do I still get a paycheck when I leave? So let's take a look at that. So in order to get a paycheck from your assets, we look at this on a total return basis. There's a few ways to make a return on any investment account. That's going to be income, dividends, and capital gains. We'd like to look at all three. If you're just focused on income or dividends, you might not be properly diversified and you might be exposing yourself to some risks that you aren't quite aware of. So this is how we would generate a paycheck from a portfolio for our clients. We've got a portfolio that's built, and here the paychecks generated through the rebalancing process. So typically our clients, when they're retired, they're going to be holding out 6 months or so worth of spending in a bank account. Now, when that account gets low, it's going to be refilled through a rebalancing process. What that does is it generates the paycheck, refills the bank account, but it also brings us back to the target allocation. So the advantage of that rebalancing process, it's actually enforcing a buy low, sell high behavior versus a purely income approach where rebalancing isn't necessary and that allocation can actually get out of whack over time. So that's a simplified demonstration of how we can generate cash. But what do you actually do with your accounts once you leave Intel? So typically people are going to have a mix of a few accounts. You're going to have a 401k, you're potentially eligible for a retirement contribution plan, and then you might have an Intel minimum pension benefit as well. Now, what you can do with those assets when you leave is actually move them into a rollover IRA. And there's a few decisions that need to go into that. First, if you're going to do it at all, we would recommend doing it with a discount brokerage firm. So Schwab, Fidelity, E-Trade, etc. If you are wanting to do that, or some of the reasons you might do that would be one, just to consolidate and simplify. You go from having assets in 3 different locations to one. You're going to have some more control over those accounts. You might have some expanded investment options, or you would have some expanded investment options. So either funds, area of the market, if you're somebody that's doing options or something like that, those things become available to you. And then potentially you can reduce fees. You can pursue some lower fee funds as well by expanding those options that you have available to you. Now, that's the tax deferred accounts. On the taxable side, a lot of people at Intel are going to have a couple different accounts there. You're going to have the surplus account potentially, and you're going to have your Intel stock at E-Trade currently. Now, both of these, after taxes are paid on the surplus side, both of these can again be distributed or consolidated into a taxable account. Now, the thing to note about the surplus is the distribution schedule is on the Fidelity website. It's listed there. You can go out there and see when those assets are going to be distributed. So that's it in terms of the information. Hopefully that's been helpful. I mean, we've looked at who's eligible to retire from Intel, the effect of those benefits, how that impacts some of the Intel stock compensation. We looked at the pension plan, and then we also looked at generating a paycheck and what to do with your assets when we leave. Again, I would just reinforce this notion of act now. If you're leaving Intel, you only get one opportunity to do it, and you only get one opportunity to get it right. So don't leave money on the table, and don't put off. If you're one that is looking forward or exploring, if you want to leave Intel, don't put off living the life you want. Get the information you need and act now. Now, to that end, again, like I mentioned, we put together some resources out there for you. So the first of which is a one-on-one introductory conversation. So for anybody that is ready to take action but would like a little bit of help, we will make available a link where you can get in touch and schedule this introductory one-on-one phone conversation typically. If it makes sense to continue, we can go through our process with you. But essentially, a discovery phase, we can plan the journey for you, design, create a roadmap to achieve the goals you're trying to achieve, and then execute, put that plan in place. You can get in touch at cordonwealth.com/get in touch. For anybody that's not ready for a one-on-one consultation, we do have a couple other resources available to you. So at this link, Retiring from Intel Calculators, we have a couple things. We have that pension tool that I mentioned where you can plug in your own assumptions and look at the monthly income versus the lump sum calculation. We also have a retirement eligibility calculation. So you can plug in your specific information and it'll let you know a little bit about how that impacts your benefits. So that's it. We hope this has been valuable. We would encourage you to take advantage of some of the resources, and thank you for listening.